Unless you've been living under a rock, I'm sure you've heard about the Hobby Lobby ruling announced by Supreme Court. Bill O'Reilly and his buddies have been doing the victory lap since. The interesting thing is that these people don't realize that they've compromised everything that they claim to stand for, and they don't even realize it.
In your opinion, is the American left hell-bent on restricting personal freedom in this country?
Well, they would never look at it that way.
What to do?
That's not, well, I think that might be the effect of it, and you've made a pretty good case for that. This is how they look at it, though. What they see as freedom is the freedom of a woman to go about her sexual activities as she pleases and to be protected from the consequences of that, or the possible consequences of it, by having free birth control, and even in some cases free birth control after pregnancy may have started. That's their idea of freedom.
Excuse me, Brett, but providing the means for birth control is a good thing. In this nation, we have plenty of children in foster care and in orphanages. This, too, is a consequence, but a consequence of being born to parents that don't have the time or the means to support them. Should we produce more children in this circumstance? If so, and if you were concerned about their well-being, as any decent person should be, are you willing to pay taxes for their support? If not, are you personally willing to raise them? If neither of these options are tenable, then the only practical answer is birth control. Even with abortion, you have to live with the decision that you have made. There are always consequences.
So it depends on whose idea of freedom you're talking about. Now, I don't happen to agree with theirs, but
wait. I mean, look, it's not freedom to demand that someone else pay for your life. All right, Sandra Fluke wants you and me to pay for her birth control mechanism. She thinks that's her right. All right? That's not freedom. That's an imposition on my freedom of conscience. I don't want to pay for her birth control.
I happen personally to agree with that. I'm just trying to illustrate.
No, but I'm talking about the real world now. I'm not talking about ideology. In the real world, let me reshape it for you. In the real world, all right, I see President Obama and his acolytes on the left taking my freedom to protect myself, to use my tax money morally in a way that doesn't go against my religious conscience, and in a variety of other ways, impugning, taking my freedom away. All right? That's how I see it.
What Bill just said here is key to the point I'm going to make. His argument is that he should have the right to self-determination and individual liberty. He also says that he should be able to determine where his tax dollars go based on his religious belief. Now let's think this through. First of all, once your money goes to the government, you have no real control over where it's spent. Your money is but a pittance in a vast pool of money that is taken from millions of taxpayers, many of whom differ in opinion from you. If it did matter, then most atheists wouldn't want their tax dollars going towards the government while religious institutions pay none. Nor would some other religious people want to support the pay of many of the pro-Christian politicians in office whose views are not in line with their own. So that argument is complete rubbish. Secondly, if the argument is over subsidized care, then take away all of it for everyone. Don't just take out the bits for a certain demographic you don't like. Deny it to everybody across the board. Obviously, that isn't the goal. The truth is that it is about denying certain parts to a certain demographic because you don't like what it stands for. If you were so worked up about paying for it, and that's the sole issue, pass on the cost for the birth control measure onto the employee and let them make the choice. Outright denying it is simply pushing your personal beliefs down others' throats. Lastly, I agree that everyone should have the right to self-determination. In other words, I believe that you should be able to make decisions for yourself and live with the consequences. However, I should not be able to determine what another person should or should not do. This is even more important if their decisions do not directly affect me. For example, I personally think that religion is nonsense. However, just because I find it repulsive, I should not be able to tell a person that they cannot believe in their religion. We can discuss or debate our perspectives, but I will never tell anyone that they can't believe as they see fit. What this ruling has done is to lay the cornerstone for any business to determine what a person does in their personal affairs. In other words, it does not support a person's right to self-determination if it conflicts with the individual views of the owner or the CEO. And sure, some of you are fine with that since it rules in favor of Christianity, at least this time. However, if an atheist owns a business, or a business owned by a person from another religion won a ruling saying that you can't bring any kind of religious or Christian paraphernalia into their place of business, you would be in an uproar. And I can hear the comments now. Oh, but that's religion, and the other is about a person's sexual acts and reproduction. While true, neither of these cases are valid grounds for a person to deny another person's right to self-determination. And if it helps, substitute belief for circumcision. There are those that see it as the equivalent of abuse or mutilation of a child. So let's deny circumcision in medical coverage. I'm sure some people that support circumcision would not be happy about that. But either you support individual freedom or you don't. Otherwise, you only support your rights. It's that simple. I saw a post from a person I consider to be a very good friend who expressed their exasperation over this issue. They basically asked, why even fight it? What's the point if the court will simply do something like this? While I can't speak for others, I will tell you why I fight. I fight because I spent the majority of my life fighting to defend the rights of others, many of whom I will never personally meet. I've seen firsthand what happens to people who have no voice. I've seen people treated as less than human or killed just because one group was given privileged status over the next. For years, people of my ilk were treated the same way. Over time, people spoke up. Countless unnamed people, some of whom were not part of my demographic, picked up the mantle because it was the right thing to do. Although it took a very long time and a lot of sacrifice, finally people like myself could be considered as an equal. It was a cumulative effort that began with a few people standing up, then it snowballed into something that became an unstoppable movement. But none of it could have happened if the first few ardent people didn't say, this needs to end. Very few things worth achieving happen overnight. The greatest achievements sometimes take decades or centuries, but with persistence, eventually the day is won. Why do I fight? I fight because somewhere along the line, someone else fought for me. And I consider it my duty to speak up when I see injustice cast upon someone else regardless of demographic. I owe them nothing less. Thanks for watching.